Next, start the real engraving. First, the wafer is placed inside the stone engraving machine. Carbon tetrafluoride and oxygen will be introduced into the stone engraving machine so that high-energy plasma is formed. The plasma will react with places on the wafer where there is no photoresist so that circuit diagram is formed on the wafer. This is where the circuit diagram is actually engraved onto the wafer. Due to the poor conductivity of the wafer of lithium, so it is also necessary to implant that wafer with ion. Use an ion implanter to bombard phosphorus element or boron element onto the wafer surface. Phosphorus or boron will be doped into the wafer, but this can result in lattice damage. So an annealing process is also needed to repair the crystal lattice. After ion implantation, the photoresist on the wafer surface is useless, so it needs to be cleared. This is a photoresist stripper. The stripper uses a solvent to directly dissolve the remaining photoresist on the wafer. There is still the most important problem unsolved here, because we just built a house on the wafer, but no roads were built. This leads to no connectivity between each house. So the next thing that needs to be done is the metallization is used to connect the circuit. This is a meteorological deposition equipment. It can deposit metallic copper into the circuit diagram of the wafer surface so that a metal copper film is formed on that surface of the chip. But after that metallization, the wafer surface is not flat, so that wafer is then put into the facility for chemical mechanical polishing. After some grinding, the wafer surface becomes smooth, and the internal metal wires are also exposed. But this chip has only one layer. The CPU chip usually has about 80 layers. So in order to build a multi-layer chip, we need to follow each of the previous processes. Repeat up to 940 TaC steps, so that a wafer having a multi-layer circuit diagram is manufactured. Fabricated wafer. Next thing to do is to test. Testers will rigorously test every CPU chip on the wafer and find out the circuit problems on each chip depending on the number of questions. Engineers will sort these chips so as to divide the chips into high-end, mid-end and low-end for sale. After the test is completed, the wafer will be divided using a laser so that it is cut into more than 200 small chips. The chiplet will be packaged next. The chip will be mounted on a printed circuit board. A heat dissipation protective cover will be added to the back. Then add a large protective case on the outside. One last test. After the test is fine, the CPU can be installed on the computer for use.